Hello, this is Brooks with Thompson Machine. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about a silencer subject that doesn't get talked about very often. It's the subject of baffle strikes. Now, of course, if you have a silencer, you kind of dread the idea of a baffle strike, and it's for good reason. You don't want them. But there are a lot of misconceptions that I've seen about baffle strikes on various forums and whatnot. So I'm going to talk to you guys about baffle strikes. I'm going to talk to you guys about what we do with our silencers to minimize the risk of the end user getting a baffle strike. Obviously, there's only so much that we can do because we're not in control of, where the end user's gun is getting threaded and whatnot. But there's some stuff I'm going to talk to you guys about that to help you minimize your risk of getting a strike, to recognize baffle strikes if you are getting them, or baffle rubs or baffle grazes. There are varying degrees of baffle strike, and in general, just tell you how to avoid them. So obviously on this setup here with my Horizon and my Mark III 2245, I'm not getting a baffle strike because my bullets are going right where I aim them. Alright, now that we're inside out of the 1,000 degree weather, I'm going to tell you guys how to recognize a baffle strike if a baffle strike's happening, how to figure out where it is in your silencer. Now, the most telling thing that indicates that you're getting a baffle strike is if you've got your host gun and you know where it shoots without the silencer on, you put the silencer on, suddenly you've got a big dramatic point of impact shift. If you're getting any significant point of impact shift, you're probably having a baffle strike to some degree. Now, sometimes a silencer will cause a little bit of point of impact shift just because of, the silencer in a way acts as a crown, so it's going to slightly change how the gas flow is at the muzzle, and it may cause a little bit of point of impact shift, but your group sizes aren't going to open up, nothing like that, if the silencer is properly aligned. If you're getting big point of impact shift, or your group sizes are opening up, or you're getting keyholes, so the bullets are hitting your target sideways, and they weren't before the silencer was put on, you're probably getting a baffle strike. Now, there are lots of degrees of baffle strike. This silencer here, this was sent in by a customer for a repair. This gentleman was new to silencers. He wasn't aware that you had to be careful to keep the silencer, make sure the silencer was screwed on snugly so it was properly shouldered, and he'd allowed it to unscrew several times in the course of a day of shooting to quite a large degree, and the silencer drooped, and he got some dramatic baffle strikes here. Now, I don't know how well you guys can see them, but there is actually material displaced and deformed in this core. We use this core in the shop still as a shooter core. It's still functionally just fine, but it has some gouges in here from the projectile striking the baffles, and I would classify this as a pretty bad baffle strike situation. Also, his muzzle cap here has a big strike on the side of the cap, and it actually on the inside of the aperture in the cap, and it actually deforms the aperture. So that's a bad strike. Now, most baffle strikes, you're not going to be this misaligned, and what you're going to see is you're just going to see a little streak on the inside of the baffles. If you're shooting jacketed ammo, obviously you're going to see a copper-colored streak. If you're shooting cast or rimfire lead stuff, you're going to see kind of a silver streak. And it won't be dramatic. You'll just see a streak going down on the inside of the bore of the baffles, or on the end cap somewhere, and that's going to be your indication that you're getting a baffle strike. It's going to be your visual indication that you're getting a baffle strike. Now, what we do with our silencers to reduce the risk of the end user getting a baffle strike is we run much larger bores than most manufacturers, so you have more clearance on either side of the projectile. The projectile should not at any point contact the inside of the silencer if everything is correct. Obviously, the bigger borehole you have, generally, the silencer doesn't get to be as quiet because you've got more blow through, but our baffles are so efficient that we're actually able to run a larger borehole, and we go just as big as we can to reduce the risk of the end user getting a baffle strike due to a misthreaded barrel or doing something incorrect as far as mounting. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to do a video for you guys showing proper mounting and alignment, but that's for another day. Just as an example of the borehole size that I'm talking about, this is a Silencer Co. Warlock 2, and this is representative. This 22 can here is representative of a pretty standard rimfire bore hole. This is a 264 size bore hole. That's 264 thousandths in diameter. And so basically, you got a 222 size projectile and 22 long rifle. So you're running about 20 thousandths on either side of the projectile of clearance, assuming everything's perfectly aligned, which is very rarely the case. If 20 thousandths is not very big, and I'll show you right here on this caliper, just show you what 20 thousandths looks like. It's very, very small. It's about 2/3 of the thickness of a credit card. So obviously it does not take very much misalignment in a 6-inch long silencer for that projectile to impact somewhere on the inside of the silencer. So industry standard is about 264 thousandths. We've got some run as small as 1/4 inch, 250 thousandths, which is a very tight bore. And manufacturers do that to get a little more sound reduction, but you're really pushing it. Everything has to be perfectly aligned, and that, as I said, very rarely happens. In our Horizon, we're actually running a 310 diameter bore, 310 thousandths. So you've got lots more overbore, lots more clearance for the projectile. As I said, the baffles are so efficient, we're able to do that. We do the same thing in our 9mm cans, like our ISIS 2. We've got an Osprey here, and this can runs about a 400 thousandths bore. Projectile is 355. So, once again, you're somewhere in that 20 thousandths range. In ours, we run a 440 bore, so 440 thousandths bore, so a whole another 40 thousandths of an inch clearance for the projectile if your can comes a little bit unscrewed, or you've got a barrel that's not threaded perfectly, or there's a little piece of carbon or something in between your barrel shoulder and your say piston in a case of a pistol can. So anyway, that's what we do to help you avoid baffle strikes. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to you guys about what you can do as far as when you mount the silencer.